It's that time in the Path of Exile cycle where it's time to choose a league starter. This league starter is one of the fastest builds in the game, and once you're finished with your league start, can be rerolled into some of the strongest builds in the game. Some people might ask, why should I play a league start build and not just play the build I want? Many of the strongest builds in the game require lots of gear that simply won't exist or will be too expensive early on. What a league starter does is it bridges the gap between the start of the league and when you can play your desired build. So what makes a good league starter? The first thing that comes to mind is speed. You want a build that can level fast. The faster you're out of the campaign, the faster you're progressing the endgame and making currency. You also want a build that is cheap and doesn't require specific gear pieces to be viable. You want to be saving currency on the gear that you want, not spending upgrades on your current build. Then, one of the most important aspects of a good league starter is that you can play powerful builds on that character without having to spend the time to level another one. Since Poison Concoction was introduced, it's been one of the best leveling skills in the game to the point where it was nerfed last league. Even though it was nerfed, it's still one of the best leveling skills and has a very smooth progression. With Poisonous Concoction, you are unable to use a main hand weapon, which at first may seem like a downside, but it's actually a good benefit because it makes it so you don't have to worry about crafting or finding weapon upgrades while leveling. Like most poison skill gems, levels are what matters the most, but also with Poison Concoction, you want projectiles. So since the only thing that really matters are things that you get from the gem specifically, there's just a very smooth progression. The only thing that you really need on your gear is life and resistances, and you can do most of the content in the game. For this build, we'll be playing on Pathfinder, and since we're playing on Pathfinder, we bypass most of the nerfs with the amount of flash charges you get back. The goal with this build is to be a good league starter, not necessarily something that will carry you throughout the whole endgame. That's why it doesn't have a ton of gear and a ton of upgrades, and when you take a look at the POB, most of the gear is just straight up life resist rares. If you take a look past that subscribe button, which hopefully you've already hit by now, you'll see the description with a Path of Building link. That Path of Building guide will take you through everything starting from Act 1. And if you look at the gear is very cheap basic gear that only has life on it. I purposely did this so you have to balance the resistance for your character and that you're not looking for specific items that I used on my character. It'll be much easier for you to just balance your resistance on your own and not try to find an exact replica of the items that I could have put in the Path of Building. Once you get your resistance all balanced, you should be able to complete most of the Atlas with just life resistance gear. Early on, you'll be playing Caustic Arrow. Just make sure that you're using Mirage Archer and you're letting it do most of the clearing while you're moving through the early zones. Make sure you look out for a triple green 3-link on any piece of gear but a weapon, since we're unable to use a weapon with Poison Concoction. At level 12, you're going to swap to Poisonous Concoction, and if you have a 3-link, you're going to run Chance to Poison with Volley. If you didn't get a 3-link, just run Volley. From then on, you'll be playing Poisonous Concoction for the rest of the game. Just make sure to follow the Path of Building, and that will guide you through the rest of your progression. The faster you make it to maps, the cheaper everything will be. Since we're playing Pathfinder, there are numerous options and builds to play after you finish your league start. If you enjoy the Poisonous Concoction playstyle, you can continue to invest into that build and finish your whole Atlas relatively easily. In the POB, there is a separate tab that has some nice quality of life upgrades if you want to continue playing that build. If you want to play something different, you can easily swap to Impending Doom. Even though there was nerfs to temp chains, Doom Blast will still be one of the best builds in the game. Just look up Steel Mage's overview if you're interested in that build. If Vixens aren't too expensive, you should be able to get a pair pretty fast. For me, I'll be playing a build I'm sure most of you have never heard of. Poison Seismic Trap. I've personally never actually played it when it was one of the strongest builds, so this is my chance to finally get to play it. Then, since we are Ranger, after farming on Pathfinder, you can switch to Deadeye and play Tornado Shot Omni, one of the best farming builds in the entire game. If you want to get to maps faster than you ever have before, this is the build for you. If you have any questions or run into any issues, just leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.